doctor.
Beauty and brains and height. That's Claudia Henkel for you. She hasn't been exempt, though, from some of life's challenges, most notably anorexia. Claudia, when did you first realize you had an eating disorder?
I think the beginning stages when I realized it was in Cape Town Fashion Week. I remember that I had flown down there to do a period of 2 weeks of fashion shows and fittings and so forth, and I realized that because of my height, I'm 1.84 meters tall, that generally the clothes that would fit a girl that was 1.77 or 1.76 wouldn't fit me, so I would have to be really, really thin. And I mean, I remember traveling to Cape Town and, you know, traveling with my little step machine in my suitcase, and I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I would step on my step machine. I didn't have weights, so I'd buy like 3 kilo sugar bags. So it became more of an obsession towards eating as well. And then I would go do Fashion Week. I'd probably eat an apple and maybe a slither of chicken, and I would walk the ramp all day. And then I'd get home at 8 and I'd just go to sleep. So
at 184, what did you weigh at the time?
54.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was
okay, so that's
scary.
a crisis.
Yeah.
Tell me about the turning point. When did you realize I'm in trouble?
As I said, like, I'm quite an athletic person, and I think that I've never fainted or had low blood pressure or anything like that. And I remember the last day of Fashion Week, just before I was getting ready for a show, I fainted. And I was actually just told to go home and not do the rest of the Fashion Week. And obviously I was devastated. But when I returned home, I think the expression on my mother's face was quite evident that I didn't look as beautiful as I thought I did.
Wow. Yeah. And how did you manage it from then on?
Well, basically, my mother was a great support. I think that her and I have had a great relationship throughout. And, you know, when she sees something and says something to me, but it's still to the point where I was obsessed with what I was eating. I mean, checking calorie content, and literally if I'd eaten something that was a little bit over, I'd feel terrible about myself. When I decided to enter Miss South Africa, she literally sat me down, and Miss South Africa was one of the biggest passions of my life. And she said to me, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to fix yourself before, because if you're going to walk in like that, they're going to say no ways.
And that was it?
That was it.
The turning point. Sure. Jessica Alba, Nicole Ritchie, Victoria Beckham, and even the late Lady Di all suffered from eating disorders. Maybe you do too. We're going to find out afterwards how you diagnose that, when to call a doctor, and what to do if you do suffer from some sort of disorder.
Hello, doctor.
Anorexia takes an enormous toll on the body, but that's not all. It has the highest death rate of any mental illness. Up to 20% of people who develop the disease eventually die from it. So this is really, really serious. Claudia, I don't know if you were aware of that. No.
Not at all.
So, Debbie, we're not sure about the cause of anorexia, but what triggers it?
There's numerous triggers. Could be trauma, environmental, social pressure, the need to succeed, the need to control, the need to be effective as a woman are the main factors that contribute to eating disorders.
I guess the need to be perfect. I mean, that was your need, wasn't it, Claudia?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the fact that if you look at modelling, and when I started modelling, that girls, the perception about models is tall and thin. I had the tall part, but I just never thought I was ever thin enough.
So what are the symptoms, Debbie? I mean, what should we be looking out for if a daughter or a friend is developing what we think is anorexia?
Hiding food, reducing portions of food, restricting to lettuce leaves and vegetables and that type of thing. Excluding carbohydrates is one of the first things that disappears.
Wow.
And just on that note, if you exclude carbohydrates, you don't make serotonin in your body, and that's where the depression comes from. Yeah, very strong link. 60% of anorexics will become depressed because they're not getting the right amount of serotonin into
Did you
their
find
body.
that, Claudia?
I felt that everything that I was eating or everything that I was taking in was controlled. And it made me feel like I was in power over something. And that's how it, you know, worked. In terms of depression and so forth, I think that during Fashion Week, you know, the amount of shows that you were doing, and you were busy all the time, that I never really got to think about what I was going, you know, this is what I'm going through. I just neglected to eat food, and I was thin and I was happy.
So, Debbie, I talked about the mental side of things, but how bad is anorexia? I mean, what are some of the complications? What are the dangers?
Well, the dangers are really of starvation and the devastation of your body. And basically what happens is one gets so thin, your BMI, which is your body mass index, drops dangerously low. And at that point, the body starts to eat itself. Sure. And that's when we start getting kidney problems and heart problems and all sorts of other things.
When would you call a doctor in?
It's a very difficult thing. You know, treating anorexia is not easy. In fact, treating bulimia is a lot easier. With anorexia, there's a certain sense of pride in the control that you have over your food and ultimately your body. Whereas the shame level with bulimia is a whole lot more. You know, nobody's really walking around telling everyone that they're purging every day. So it's difficult to actually get people to voluntarily go into treatment. It can be successfully treated as an outpatient early on, but once your weight drops significantly, and certainly below sort of 15 down to 14 on your BMI level, then you're looking at cognitive deficit. So at that stage, hospitalization is important. Yeah.
Claudia, did you experience any complications with your anorexia?
Aside from the fact that I was weak and fatigued and you're not really interested in doing much, I lost my period for about a year during the time, wow. Which is quite hectic, because I think that when at stages where I did become a little bit healthier and it would come back, I would say, oh my goodness, then I'm going to stop eating again, kind of thing. So that was probably one of the biggest complications that I experienced.
So Debbie, of all that's been said between the two of you right now, what would you say is one key point that you'd like to leave with people that are potentially facing an eating disorder?
I think the trick of intervention, the trick of therapy, is to help the person channel the energy that they've put into food into creative and healthy living activities. Okay. There's no simple follow this route and you'll get better. Mm-hmm. It really takes a long time. Yeah. Cognitive behavioral therapy is still the route to go. But as a medical model, there's a lot more on the feelings level that needs to be done. Mm-hmm. So it's about challenging that energy that goes into food, into creative. So.
Would you agree with that, Claudia? I mean, what was your
I mean, I think that it's important, because once you go through that stage where food was my obsession and I was getting thinner and thinner, I felt powerful. So for a girl to actually realize that, you know, she's got a problem, it's going to take a lot, because I wouldn't want, I mean, when my mom said I was really thin, I was like, yes, that's amazing. I'm getting thinner and thinner. So for her to actually realize that she has a problem, I think it's going to take somebody else to intervene, because the less she eats and the thinner she gets, the better she feels about herself. I mean, I was eating at one stage an apple and a piece of chicken, and that was it, and training 2 hours a day. And if I had something a little bit over that, then I'd go back to the gym for another 2 hours. So the more I exercised and the less I ate, the better I felt about myself, until, you know, somebody that's, you know, near you, or a loved one, whether it be a friend or a grandfather or a mother or a father, literally sits down and says, you know, there's something wrong. And I think that you will believe somebody that's close to you. Yeah.
That has the courage to actually say, hey,
absolutely,
there's an issue
yeah.
here.
I think that somebody that knows you well enough and that you trust sits you down and says, look, it's not, you're not looking great at all.
I love you too much to let you carry on like this. Claudia, thank you. Debbie, thank you so very, very much. People with anorexia who are young and who start treatment early in their illness usually do very well. So don't hesitate. If in doubt, check it out.
Hello, doctor.